Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, once again, we're here as a House, I believe at least on the third occasion, dealing with the regulating of an industry, the gaming and the gambling industry, right? This is the Gaming and Betting Control Act 2021. As previous speakers have outlined, and they cannot change the facts, prior to 2015, 2014-2015 period, legislation was brought. From the quick research I did and looking at the Hansard, it was debated, it was passed in one house, and then went to another house, and then unfortunately it lapsed before it could have become full and wholesome law at the end of a term in 2015 of a previous government, a UNC government. I think any citizen looking on can come to a conclusion that that was all a facade. It was all smoke and mirrors, because looking at what has happened from 2015 to now, it is obvious, as we've heard previous speakers from the other side, that the UNC, now in opposition, has no interest in supporting legislation that is going to regulate this industry. An industry that requires regulation, an industry that is screaming out for intervention, an industry that any law-abiding citizen would wish there to be regulation, intervention, and a proper commission looking at it. I've listened to the previous speakers, and I'm sure there'll be other speakers to come. And I would be surprised, Madam Speaker, but pleasantly so, if I hear one good reason from those on the other side as to why there should not be regulation. You see, what happens is exactly as we just heard from the member for Point of Peer. They come, they make noise, they attack legislation, they say, this is not good, that isn't good. He said on at least 4 occasions in his contribution, they will challenge it in court. I heard the Honourable Attorney General speak about, in the other place, again, the clarion call, we will challenge it in court. But then, end with, which is one of the cliche catchphrases of the UNC, we will support good law. And then the speaker, before he ran out of the chamber, had the audacity to say, we want to regulate. Madam Speaker, I want to put on the record through you that I was a member of the Joint Select Committee in the previous Parliament, the previous term of Parliament. And we sat for 5 years going through, and I've walked today. They talked about consultation, they talked about stakeholders, they've talked about what was done. Now they try to change it to regulations. I want the population to know, and they can't change this fact. We sat as a Joint Select Committee, the member for Diego Martin Northeast, the Minister of Finance was the chairman of that committee, and he exercised unusual levels of patience. I used to tease him about it, Madam Speaker, because he allowed every single intervention by the independents and the members on the other side. We went through every stakeholder, Madam Speaker, let the population see. This is just one submission from one of the major casinos in Trinidad and Tobago. And the member for Diego Martin Northeast made us go through every page. We spent a number of days with all of the stakeholders in the industry. They asked for regulations. We had persons, if I remember correctly, employed by the Parliament from Australia. All of that body of work came and was rejected by the UNC. So we're back here today, and let me just focus quickly on the legal point being raised now. That is another red herring. The previous speaker, Madam Speaker, talked about proportionality, unconstitutionality, said the difference with this bill is just the removal of the requirement for a 3/5 majority. I am sure that will be addressed in the winding up, but it would be remiss of me as someone with a legal background and someone who spent many years in the court not to put on record that there is no failure of proportionality here. what you're being asked to apply for if you want to run a casino, a gaming house, a lounge, any type of gambling institution is a license. Everybody knows that you can put conditions on a license and there is no right to a license. So if one of the conditions of a license to be granted by the Commission to protect the population is that there will be a right of entry to check your books, etc., there is nothing disproportional with that. There's nothing unconstitutional with that. There were other areas removed. If they say no, then you can go for a warrant. Again, in full proportionality. So I don't want any member, any law-abiding member of the population to be fooled by the constant throwing of red herrings in an attempt to once again obfuscate and prevent the passage, or not prevent the passage, show that they're not supporting the bill for any legitimate reasons. So it is now set in history that the opposition does not want to support gaming legislation. The question must arise, why would any law-abiding citizen not want an industry like the gaming industry to be properly regulated? It is undeniable, and no one can produce any submission that contradicts that, unfortunately, the gaming industry internationally, gambling industry internationally, has been and can be infiltrated by crime and criminality. One of the main purposes of this legislation is to deal with money laundering. And I just want to put on the Hansard a live example of how money laundering can take place by the use of casinos. You can have the family member of a minister of government, a former minister of government, meet with family members of contractors in a casino in Las Vegas, for example. The contractor can go and purchase a whole set of chips with cash and just slide those chips across on a table to the family member of a former minister. They can then go now, walk away from the table and cash it. Money has passed, money is washed. The same way any criminal can go into a casino, purchase chips, for example, with cash, go play one game, and decide I'm not playing anymore, go on and cash it and walk out. And when asked, where has this money come from? I just got it from the casino. And as simple as that, money laundering takes place. Casinos worldwide, the gaming industry worldwide have been legitimately accused, and persons have been prosecuted, not only for money laundering, for financing of criminal activity, including terrorism. And this is what we're here today to consummate, the regulation of that industry to try and protect and prevent that from taking place. As simple as that. What we're seeking here today to do, Madam Speaker, is to properly regulate this industry. And I'll go very quickly to Clause 4 and set out so the population understands what the objects of this act are. Because it's important that they understand, because at the end of the day, they will judge the parliamentarians today by what they fail to do or what they do. The objects of this act are, Clause 4A, to protect minors and other vulnerable persons from being harmed or exploited by gambling. Which law-abiding citizen wouldn't want that? B, to ensure that gambling is conducted in a fair, open, and responsible manner. Who wants to stand in the way of that? C, to prevent gambling from being a source of crime, being associated with crime, or being used to support crime. The population must listen carefully and see who does not want that. D, ensure compliance with written laws for anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing in line with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations. E, ensure consumer protection. F, provide for the collection of taxes. And G, contribute to the economy by creating employment. These are all admirable objects of the Act, and we have not heard a single person so far, and I'm certain we won't hear another one for the day, who can provide the population, the law-abiding population, with a single proper reason why the objects of this Act should not be fulfilled, or where in the Act we're infringing anything and not passing proper law. So what this is here doing is establishing, amongst other things, a gambling, gaming, and betting control commission. This will allow proper taxation. We've heard the Minister of Finance say repeatedly it's a $16 billion industry. We just heard the Honourable Attorney General talk about how few are actually caught in the taxation net. If persons want, and it's their free choice to go and game and to gamble, why shouldn't it be properly taxed? Why should we allow these institutions, in particular foreigners who come into the country and set up these massive gaming houses, casinos, etc.? Madam Speaker, I went to a casino once. I have no interest in it whatsoever. I put that on the record. My best friend wanted to go into a casino once in Antigua. I accompanied him. And I saw how quickly you can get entrapped into a game. It was, God, I'm almost there. If I play once more, I could win. If I do it once more, very quickly, the funds in pocket were over. And out had to come a credit card. And that is how gambling and gaming can destroy lives. I have seen it firsthand in other families, how it has affected generations of hard workers, and then somebody in the family gets caught into gaming and gambling. So one of the great things about this legislation I'd also like to hear why anyone would object to is the provision for the first time for vulnerable persons in the definition clause and to deal with the addictive effects of gambling. That is something that is laudable, but we're not hearing anything about that. There is no doubt, and we had the stakeholders of, I think, 2 bodies come and explain to us how they try to rehabilitate persons who unfortunately get addicted to gambling, cross the line, and very quickly gamble away all of the families wherewithal. And this bill here today at clause 64, and it is something we should all support. Anyone who stands in the way of it must answer to the population why not. At clause 64 of this is a rehabilitation fund to be established. And here what it is for, Madam Speaker, to assist non-governmental organizations and other groups working with vulnerable persons, and their families, suffering the effects of gambling addiction and other forms of harm or exploitation associated with gambling. And it also allows for the Commission to establish programs, including programs for public education, research, training, rehabilitation, intervention regarding problems and compulsive gambling, treatment and prevention of problems and compulsive gambling. What is wrong with that? Who will stand in the way of that? For the first time, what you're saying is the industry will provide money towards the establishment of this fund to help those who are negatively affected by gambling. I'm not saying everyone is, but those who are. You ask any family, and I could give first-hand stories, any family who has been destroyed by the effects of one member of that family getting caught in the addiction of gambling. So let us pass the law. Let us allow for that funding to take place, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, how much time do I have?
And at 12:50.
Thank you very much. Another thing I'd like to use, another point I'd like to use my time to very quickly draw the attention of the public to, through you, for the public to know what it is, what is the business that we're doing here today in the House, starting us sitting at 10 o'clock, which is a little unusual, but it is because of the importance of this. And let every member who speaks put onto the Hansard what his or her position is for the public to judge. When you look at clause 13 of this bill, Madam Speaker, sets out the functions of the Commission. So this is what we're setting up the Commission to do, to regulate and control the operations of gambling in Trinidad and Tobago, to provide such information to other regulatory supervisory government agencies, including the BIR, the FIU, Integrity Commission, Customs and Excise, Commissioner of Police, Police Complaints Authority, Betting Levy Board. That is to tackle criminality. C, to seek and to address through the Rehabilitation Fund and Development Fund the harmful and negative effects of gambling. Again, it is there. Commission, that is your job. go and help and fight the addictive effects. D, to ensure that licensed activities and all gambling activities conducted under this Act are conducted in fair and honest manner. We've all heard these stories. We've all seen it on television shows, movies, where a casino may manipulate machines or manipulate the dealers to stack against the player, as they say, and what that does to person's life. So now let us put in place a commission with the power to go and ensure that doesn't happen. Madam Speaker, I also want to draw the public's attention, because the public must know the powers that are being given to them here today, and that they can intervene in this industry if they have a problem, for example, with the establishment of some of these casinos. Clause 32.8, I had to highlight to draw to the public's attention, to let the public know that we are providing here today for the following persons to object to the granting of a license by writing to the Commission. So the public now knows you have a say, you have a voice. Where's the disproportionality in that? So any resident of or business owner in the area in which the proposed licensed premises are located can object. Any school principal, teacher, or parent of a student of a school in the area in which the proposed licensed premises are to be located can object. The Chief Secretary of the THA, a municipal or regional corporation, a representative of a religious group located in the area, and any interested party. This is giving the people the power to determine where these houses should go, because it is an undeniable fact. Unfortunately, sometimes these institutions attract the wrong people for the same reasons I started off with, the money laundering, the ability to go inside and wash large amounts of cash. We're trying to prevent that. We're not trying to shut down the industry. It is regulating the industry, Madam Speaker. Just very briefly to deal with a couple of the points, because there weren't many that were raised before by the other side. The removal of the 3/5 clause, I've dealt with that. Yes, it was removed, and those parts that are affecting our constitutional rights have been removed. You can put any condition on a license. There is no right to a license. I want to hear the lawyers on the other side come and justify to the population that anyone has a right to have a license to open a casino anywhere they want. Is that the submission that is being made? It will be tested in court. I take serious umbrage, Madam Speaker, as an elected member of Parliament, someone given the privilege to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and in particular Port of Spain West, Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, to have every single time they spit out their dummy, they pick up their marbles, well, I don't like what you're doing, this affecting my financiers, this affecting this one, that one, so I go into court. Go to court. But you can't come here as a parliamentarian on every occasion threatening the Parliament, threatening the legislature with court. That just doesn't sit right. One of the most ridiculous submissions, very briefly, Madam Speaker, what is the need and rush to pass the bill? We've heard here this has been before the Houses since 2014. It is to rush and to pass legislation to deal with some of the areas I've just raised, to regulate an industry that unfortunately throughout the history of time has associations with crime and criminality, and we want a fighting chance as the law-abiding citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to regulate it via a commission, and to also have a rehabilitation fund and other things to assist to maybe deal with some of the ills of this. There's not going to be any political interference. That's another red herring. The commission is open to political interference. The appointment of almost everybody in statutory bodies in the legislation of Trinidad and Tobago is done subject to cabinet. Even when it says the president, there are very few instances where Her Excellency has a sole discretion. So no matter who's in government, that is a power that you have. And there is no instance where there's political interference. The same thing applies across the board. So, Madam Speaker, I believe my time is running out. What time was it? 12? It's past.
Just 20 seconds.
Thank you very much. So, Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. I sat on that Joint Select Committee for many years. We went through everything. This bill here today is a truncated bill. Certain powers that we wanted to give them have been taken out,